Hey guys, what's going on? Just thought I'd make a quick little boxing tutorial. I've had some people ask me about form on boxing in the boxing basics class. I've had some people reach out to me as well personally and ask me about some stuff. Um, so I'm just going to go over just kind of the basics of kind of stance work, punching, and kind of how I think you should start to set up. Um, So your boxing stance shouldn't be super wide or long. Some people have different thoughts on that. Hey, buddy. Okay. And depending upon if you're a conventional fighter or a southpaw fighter, some of the fundamentals are eventually going to be are going to pretty much be the same. But your as far as like where your hand positioning is, how you choose to guard, things like that. And there's all different types of boxing styles. Peekaboo, conventional people have high guard. They change some things up. So when you get into deeper into boxing, there's ways you can mix this up. This is really kind of just a fundamentals overview. First and foremost, your stance should be not too wide and not super narrow in here. It just makes you less stable. There are times where being in this stance may be useful, but it's kind of in how you use your footwork. So I'd say start off about shoulder width with your stance work, and you want the weight on the balls of your feet. Okay, so if you notice, my heels are up a little bit, so it makes me very mobile. So I can kind of always be moving. I can switch my feet into different directions. I can pivot easily, and I can stay active. So the more that you plod around, this is really it's not good weight distribution. It also makes you less agile in your movements. And it also lends itself to telegraphing, especially like if you have to take a step. There's a lot more movement and shifting of the weight that has to take place in order to make steps if you're flat-footed. So first, let's stay on the balls of our feet. Second, your chin slightly tucked down to inadvertently put your head in a position where you're not exposing the lower part of the mandible or the jaw. You have two nerve plexus that run through here, which is kind of like your knockout areas. That's something you always want to be mindful of and defending. In the beginning, I like to give people like the lip gloss analogy. So if I have a woman that I'm teaching this to, I usually just say like, okay, you just put your lip gloss on, and now you have to go out and fight some girl in the parking lot, and you don't want to mess up your lip gloss. So you bring your chin down a little bit, and your hands, think about like bringing your pinkies together, are kind of covering the lower portion of your jaw, and elbows are tucked in. So this is kind of like just the beginning framework. You may not end up staying here eventually down the road as your skill sets progress, but I want you to always at least have the idea of protecting your lower mandible and keeping your face covered. You should get in the habit of always bringing the hands back to your face. If you're just shadow boxing on your own or using mitts or gloves or whatever, try to get in the habit of just lightly touching your face. Every time a punch comes out, the other hand should be lightly touching the face as your defense. Now this can change. Your hand can come up here. You might change your hand position, crossing a little bit if you're depending on how you're guarding your face. But in the beginning, just kind of start with this idea. And then next, we're going to just look at the basics of punching and footwork and hip movement. So your jab hand is your lead hand. Your lead hand is going to come out. You want to make sure that you're fully rotating that jab hand. And notice from the side view, I have replaced this guarding hand with this shoulder. All right, so now when this hand leaves, I still have some modicum of protection from this lower mandible being hit because my shoulder's there. If I drop this down here, it's completely exposed. All right, so this is kind of the purpose for keeping the shoulder high. So again, my arm is retracting. Now, when you throw your punch, you don't want to hyperextend your elbow, so you don't want to whip it out too much so that you cause damage on the joint. So you still want to get a full range, but you also don't want to stress the elbow joint so much that you're now causing damage to the elbow joint. So when I retract my jab hand, and notice I'm getting a full rotation here. When I retract my jab hand, I'm going to throw a cross. When I throw the cross, I want to use my hip and my ball of my foot to either squish a bug or put out a cigarette. That's kind of the idea you want to have with that rear foot. So as the jab hand retracts and my cross fires, I'm using my hip and my ball of my foot on my rear leg to get full rotation so that I'm creating almost a corkscrew action from my foot and my hip through that punch. This gives you the maximum amount of range on that punch and gives you all of that rotational force that you can drive from that back leg so you stay connected to the ground. Try not to come up. I see people like do this real loose on the ball of their, or on the toe of their foot thing, and you're not really doing anything. You have the idea of rotating, but you're not connected to anything. So really try to make sure that you're pivoting this hip joint to get that torque in the punch. Okay, so your jab hand comes out as this retracts, defending the face. Cross hand comes out. Notice my shoulders defending the jaw. So you can practice 1, 2. Also, breath is very important. Some people like to hiss or make a sound or whatever every time they punch as a good way to unify the breathing with the punching, okay? Whether it be or it be like ha or whatever, you want to make sure that you're getting something out with each punch. Now, if you get really fast with your punching, you may want to start to accent one breath with multiple accents for each punch. So instead of being like ha ha with 2 punches, like ha ha, if you're throwing really fast punches, it might be one breath, ha ha, ha ha, and having 2 accents of one breath, or ha ha ha, you know, if it's 3 punches, if that makes sense. So start to think about your breathing. You know, obviously you don't want to be holding your breath when you're punching. You need to oxygenate your muscles. You're going to fatigue very fast if you start holding your breath and being really tight. Your muscles need oxygen to move. You're doing a cardiovascular type of activity. If you're holding your breath during your punching, you're just going to fizzle out. So again, jab. I'm on the balls of my feet. My feet are about shoulder width apart. I'm active. I can move. My hands are defending my lip gloss. My chin is tucked. And I'm going to jab, full rotation. All right. And then I'm going to replace this hand, cross. Notice everything is here. And I want you to think about your nose being the center line of your target, okay? You can get into head movement later. So jab, cross. Now when you're getting into hooks, we're going to do our lead hook. The basic combination everyone usually learns in the beginning is a jab, cross, hook, cross, or 1, 2, 3, 2. If you're doing punching combinations, this would be 1, 2, this would be 3, and then 2 again, which would be your cross, okay? So your hooking hand is going to kind of protect that jaw line, and your hand is going to be parallel to the floor, but the fist or the knuckles are perpendicular to the floor, okay? So I'm not doing this type of thing, and this has utility, but not for what we're doing right now. So right here, my forearm is parallel to the floor, my knuckles are perpendicular to the floor, and I'm defending my jawline with that shoulder, and my hand is protecting my face. I'm also going to use my front foot to do that same type of bug squishing that we were talking about before. So that rotational force is happening here. And then my cross, again, my 2, is chambered to fire right back down the center. And again, I pulled this hand back to cover my face. So again, nice and slow. We have the jab. We have the cross with the hip and the breathing. And then the hook, again, retracting, defending my jawline here, but also punching through the target, and then right back 2 on the cross, okay? So practice that on your own. Jab, cross, hook, cross. You can double your jab up. You can throw any combination you want. You can just do the 2, 3, 2, double jab. You can jab, cross, hook, cross, and then you can start to add other punches in, your uppercuts and all that type of stuff. The body mechanics with your footwork are very important about using your hips, starting to learn how to move your body in correlation and conjunction with your opponent as you're moving. And that's kind of like a deeper lesson. This is just very basic fundamentals of punching, hip mechanics, foot mechanics, weight distribution, protection of your face. Hi, buddy. Yeah, you want a box too, I know. So take this as a framework, kind of lesson number 1. Things you should be thinking about. Also, if you're working on a heavy bag, don't shortchange your punches where you're kind of just barely touching the bag to get speed, because you should really be working the idea of range, okay? You want to be able to put that jab hand out there and touch the edge of the bag with your hand. You don't have to rock the bag every time. The idea of the jab is to understand the distance. Do you understand where your opponent is in space? This is kind of establishing the distance. You don't want the opponent to come back through that range. And you can also set them up for when you can throw your cross, which is your knockout punch. This is kind of your stunning hand and your keeping the distance hand, so you can kind of keep your perimeter here. And then when you're ready, you want to fire those big shots, your knockout shots. And then you can work your other combinations in there as the fight evolves and as your skills evolve. Hopefully that was helpful. I'll do another short video on head movement. So when you get into slipping and rolling or bobbing and weaving, just to help you guys understand it. And if you have any questions, feel free to leave me a comment or shoot me a message. All right, hopefully this was helpful for some fundamentals. Thanks.